Okay, we are live with the fourth episode of BooKVorm. This is a series we started a few weeks back, a couple of months back actually. In case you guys haven't seen the other episodes, please go and check out the three episodes. They're all in the playlist called BooKVorm. Every episode, our guest, our constant guest, Shrimoy, talks about one book or author or genre, and I talk about one, and then if our audience feels like contributing, we react to that. That's the general format. Basically, we want to talk about books. That's the whole thing. We need excuse to talk about books. We are both obsessed with books. So yeah, without further ado, let me call the guest, Shrimoy.
Hello, hi.
Welcome, Shrimoy, to another episode of Bookworm.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, so we can start. Shrimoy,
Okay,
you want to go first and tell our viewers
okay.
what are you talking about?
Yeah, sure. So, we've spoken about like books and authors and whatever. So today I thought I'd speak about a character, but and a series of books based on that character. So, as you know, I really like detective fiction, and I have spoken about Agatha Christie before in this show itself. But the character today that I'm picking is Feluda, who is a Bengali detective, and like extremely famous, obviously, like really like part of the Bengali, I don't know, consciousness in
Mhm.
a way. uh I'll tell you like a little bit, like give an intro for people who don't know, though I think mostly people would know who he is, of course, and then also sort of discuss why I picked this topic today.
Mhm.
So he was written, I mean, Feluda was a character created by Satyajit Ray in the 1960s. He started out as a character in that used to come out in the magazine for children that Satyajit Ray used to run, started by his father and grandfather and stuff like that. And then in the 70s, he started making movies based on this character. So there were two very famous movies that he made, Satyajit Ray, on Feluda. One was called Shonar Killa and one was called Joy Baba Phirunath. They both became extremely popular. So it sort of got another push in terms of publicity. And even after Satyajit Ray's death, like Feluda as a character has been constantly adapted, and they're constantly like movies made on him and shows made on him in Bangla. And like every few years, every couple of years, there's like a new Feluda. Everybody has played Feluda, like one of those characters. What is really fascinating about the stories is that Feluda is sort of modeled on Sherlock Holmes. Satyajit Ray is supposed to be like very inspired and love that character and all. So it's based on that. He's this young guy who has a sidekick called Topshe, who's his young cousin. And every mystery is like in a new place. So they either travel to a place or they are asked to travel to a place to solve a mystery. And it's almost like a travelogue as well as a detective story. So there's like something is set in Rajasthan, something is set in Lucknow, something is set in Bombay, and through these stories, he also travels all of the country. So it's really fun because you get to like explore or read about so many different places as well. I'll specifically pick Shonar Killa because in my opinion, it's the most popular or the most famous of the stories, obviously helped by the movie. And it's set in Rajasthan. It's set, I mean, the main thing is in Jaisalmer. That's why Golden Fortress, Shonar Killa. And it's sort of follows this young kid. You can watch the movie also. It's available everywhere now. So yeah, that's the introduction. Why did I decide to speak about him? Because actually, ever since I read Shonar Killa as a child, I have been fascinated with this idea of going to Jaisalmer because I mean there are certain things about that book that I remember so vividly. Like the book starts with Feluda sort of talking about how everything in the world can be like is shaped in the form of a circle, and how circles are like such a universal shape, and how it has like such it's like some great philosophical treatise he's giving.
Mhm.
And then it moves to the mystery. They go from one place to another in Rajasthan. They go to, I think they start out in Jaipur or they go somewhere else, whatever, and then they finally end up in Jaisalmer. Which was just fascinating to me as a kid. And they have all these descriptions of how beautiful that fort is,
Mhm.
and how it just looks golden. And then there's a camel ride, and they actually have like a really funny incident with the camels and all. So much so that ever since I was a child, I really have always wanted to like go to Jaisalmer, and I have been to other places in Rajasthan, but I had never gone to Jaisalmer till like last month. And we thought a lot that doesn't make sense to go there. We've already gone to Rajasthan, But I was like, no, it's like a thing on my bucket list. I have to go once in my life to Jaisalmer just because of Feluda. And we did go, and it was amazing. And we did the camel ride and everything. So it sort of reignited this thing for Feluda and like a nostalgia. So I thought I'd speak about him today. The good thing is that all of these books are very easily available in translation. So you don't have to know Bangla to read them. You can just pick them up and read them anytime. So yeah, that's all.
Wow, what a start to this episode. I have so many questions. I'll go one by one. I'll start with the fact that I have to admit I have barely read Feluda. One of those things that I've heard about all my life,
Yeah.
I could never read. One reason is every time I thought I'll read, for some reason every bookstore has a collected work kind of a
Yeah.
thick
Yeah.
book.
Like 4 of them
Yeah, so I
together or something.
feel very discouraged to start that somehow. But that's my problem. So my first question is about that, Shriman. Is that like detective as a category in writing is like you also said, it's quite popular all over the world. There are so many.
Yeah.
Yes. And you said Feluda is inspired from Sherlock Holmes. So
Yeah.
can like I want to know like how different and similar is it to Sherlock Holmes? Like what makes him different and similar?
So the main idea is the same, that this is a really smart guy who is going to use, like, he's not concerned so much with like action. And even though Feluda is well versed in certain martial arts and all, he's not an action hero. He's not going and beating up people. And so in that, there's a similarity in that, because that's also what Sherlock is famous for, that, he's going to think it out and figure it out in his head. So that way it's similar. I think the difference is what I said. I think it's the travel part of it, and also the fact that Feluda was sort of written for children, because it came out in a children's magazine. The sidekick is like a teenager. He's much younger than Feluda. He's a young kid. So because of that, I think a lot of it is also like, very simply written, very simply put, because you can't have a lot of high funda stuff for kids. So I think that's the main difference. And I think out of all the detective stories I have read, whatever little I have, this is the only one that is aimed exclusively for, I mean, of course adults also read it, but it's kind of sort of focusing on children rather than older readers.
So that brings me to my next question, which is like, as an adult, say for example, if I start reading Feluda, you think I'll enjoy or will I find it childish?
No, I think like I've read a couple of them recently, and I think it's still enjoyable. And I really like, for me personally, that travel aspect is also extremely interesting, because he does do a good job of describing all these different places in the country and how they sort of connect, like explore those places, and how it's different from Bengal or similar to Bengal or whatever in that sense. I had actually read an essay in college, which was, I've forgotten the name of the essay. We had to read it because we were studying the shadow lines, but it was basically about how Bengalis are obsessed with travel. So much so that even like our most famous detective, what sets him apart is the travel element of it, that every book is in like a new city, and sort of appealing to people or encouraging people to go and visit these places. And that sort of is also really exciting, that where will he go next time.
Nice. Okay, I just have follow-up question to question. My next question is around this only. Like, if I read it now, I'll read an English translation. And I'm guessing you've read both versions a little bit. At least you have an
some of
opinion.
them.
So you think it translates well in English? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I've not read any of the English translations recently, but I have read them when I was younger. And I did enjoy them. So as I said, I think they're easily available and they're decent translations, so they can be picked up.
And one last, my favorite.
Also, the movie, sorry, just to interrupt, the movie itself, Shona Killa, even though it is in Bangla, it's available with subtitles, and it's a great film. So I think it's available on Prime Video only, if I'm not wrong. But definitely one of the OTT platforms.
Yes. Incidentally, my next question was this only. Like, you think the movie also does justice to the book? Like, is it
So Shona Killa is a great movie. Joy Baba Phelunath is not one of my favorites, but I know a lot of people really like it. And I'm only talking about the two that he directed, not the subsequent things that people have come up with. But Shona Killa is a really good movie. It's really like well made. It's funny. There's this character called Lal Mohan Ganguly who is an author who sort of joins them on the way, who's also supposed to provide comic relief. That I don't know how well it translates, because the comedy there comes from like a lot of like dialogue, and dialogue is not, it's not like situational humor as much as it is like what he says and how he says it. So that I don't know if it can get translated, but overall, yeah, it's a great movie. And I think one of like, if you've not seen Satyajit Ray or something, maybe a good point to start with, like one of the easier films to start with.
It also helps that the author and director are the same in terms
Yeah,
of.
of course, of course.
Uh,
And the guy who plays it's interesting because apparently, so Satyajit Ray is also an illustrator and he used to draw out the Feludas, and then he got so like inspired or so much in love with Soumitra Chatterjee, who used to play Feluda, that towards the end, like the Feluda illustrations used to look like Soumitra only, apparently. So that's also really interesting. So he's a great actor, so that also helps.
yeah. One last thing I want to say before I go to the audience
Okay.
is Satyajit Ray, of course, is, I mean, what's the word? Like he's so much like, only comparison in my mind is Da Vinci. Like I can't.
Yeah, I know. I was also thinking Renaissance man types.
Yeah. He's like he could do everything. But
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, we are very extremely lesser mortal than him. But if you have to rate him as a writer, purely as a writer, you have any opinion? Like, of
I
course,
think
as
I mean
well as
he
yeah,
is very good.
yeah,
He is very good. Like it's whatever he was trying to do, he does it so well. Like his detective stories, and he wrote science fiction, and all of that is so good, and mostly like simple, easy to understand, like appealing to everyone. It's great. Everything he did was so great.
yeah. Cool. Now is the time I go to the audience. We'll see what our beautiful audience has to say. Nikunj, so nice to see you. Oh, Nikunj's first doubt is something that I want to bring. I forgot. Nikunj's doubt is, was Vyomkesh Bakshi based on him? And before you react, Shimai, I just want to check. I want to add my question is how different are Vyomkesh Bakshi and Feluda? Pure
Yeah.
age वगैरह छोड़ के, just as a
Yeah.
character, because first thought is they are similar. They are not both action type people. Both are Bengali, of course. But because she doesn't travel as much as Feluda does.
No.
But in
No.
general, tell me the difference between the two.
I think so. I don't think they were inspired. In fact, if I remember correctly, Bomkesh would have been written before Feluda. Though I'm not exactly sure about the dates. But like if you even look at the Bomkesh stories and all, they're all set around, I mean, many of them are set around the 40s and 50s and independence and post-independence, the things that were affecting Calcutta. So even the movie actually, the one with Sushant Singh Rajput, that also had, I've not seen all of it, but that also had something to do with Calcutta around the late 40s and stuff like that.
Yeah, it had Second World War timeline.
Yeah. So that is the age where that is said. Also, Bomkesh is a little older. He doesn't travel so much. I don't think it's based completely for children. Bomkesh has like more like politics coming in and different themes like that. Also great. I love Bomkesh. In fact, when I was in college, we had to, for our freshers party, we all had to go dressed as one fictional character. So I went dressed as Bomkesh, which was nothing. I just wore a kurta. It was the easiest thing to do. But yeah, also Bomkesh is married, which is a big difference. He's supposed to be one of the only detectives in the world who is married.
Who has a like
yeah, where Feluda in fact doesn't have like there are hardly any women in the stories. Unlike Bomkesh, which where of course there's a wife, but yeah.
Yeah. I just want to also talk about Vyomkesh Bakshi because I have some great memories of the show. Okay, so I was obviously I was a kid, like not even like I was barely 5, 6 years old when I first saw Vyomkesh. But I don't know why it really scared me that show as a kid. Like first of all, it had I'm talking about the TV show now, audience, where Rajat Kapoor played Vyomkesh Bakshi. It had a very haunting music. This thing, okay, it had. I still remember the tang 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 tang. It used to scare me as a kid. I don't know. And I saw a few episodes of Vyomkesh, and immediately after that, I went to hostel. Okay. So in hostel in the night and all, I used to sometimes think of Vyomkesh and I used to get scared for some reason. Like there was an episode of Vyomkesh where what he does is he listens to what's happening in the house below. So what he does is he makes holes on the floor and hides it with a with the bed, and then रात में वो bed हटा के वो नीचे सुनता है वो कि नीचे क्या चल रहा है. And then I used to think in my hostel, I used to think like, should I drill something in and listen? नीचे क्या चल रहा है? I don't know why it scared.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think BOMKESH is a little like darker in a way, grimmer.
yeah. Okay, Nico, Subhashmit, hello, Subhashmit. Nikon says, have never heard about this character. Would definitely be looking to read the book or see the movie. That is great.
Oh, Feluda or
Yeah,
BOMKESH? Or both?
Feluda, because he mentioned Yogesh before.
Oh.
Feluda, that's great because
Yeah,
that.
no, but actually that makes sense because I don't think there's been like a massive like Feluda movie outside Bengal. Whereas Bomkesh, obviously, there was that TV show which was extremely famous, the one with Rajat Kapoor, and then recently, obviously, the Bakar Banerjee made
Yeah,
Bomkesh again. So
yeah.
it got sort of, I think, more people outside. But I think in Calcutta or like in Bengal, people who read Bengali, should, I mean, Feluda is probably equally, if not more, famous.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm so happy that Nikun said it because that also serves the purpose. One of the smaller purposes of doing this series is so people get to explore newer things. And you're right, Feluda, I don't think is as pan-India figure as
Yeah,
Yogesh
yeah,
is. So
yeah.
good for people to maybe go and check out some books or movies. Okay, so Bashmit says my top three Feluda stories would be Badshahi Amti, Royal Bengal Rohsho, and Gangtok ke Gondogo. Not Indian one.
Goindagiri? Okay, or Gondogol. I don't know.
Gangtok a
But
Gondogo.
yeah, this Vachai Auntie would have been on my list also.
Okay.
It's
Badshahi.
yeah, it's very good.
Okay. And Subhashmit said, but still I am Byomkesh over Feluda always. Oh, there's already
Yeah,
a
I can see why. Like growing up, I mean, even I was for a time being. Now I'm trying to not pick and on.
Nicole says the mystery and detective genre is full of so many good characters. It's good to discover someone new here. Yes, that's what we just said.
Yeah.
At least new for me. Byomkesh is before Feluda. Subhashmit says yes.
Yeah.
I've only seen the TV show, never read any of the books on Byomkesh Bakshi. I've also never read Byomkesh.
Yeah, actually, I don't know what Bomkesh translations there are. I've never read an English translation of Bomkesh, unlike Feluda. Because we had like one of those collected stories of Bomkesh, so it had all the stories apparently in Bangla. So then I never got any other copy or read anything else.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing Byomkesh books in bookstores.
Yes.
So all of us remember the TV show and the movie. But Feluda, despite having never read it properly, I always remember Feluda in bookstores.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that is one big difference, I think. Okay, cool.
Okay.
I think we can
Your
now
turn
start
now.
the second half. Yes, my turn. Again, I am talking about a book which I'm sure everyone has heard of. But somehow it happens that a lot of us have heard of many great books but have not read it. It happens. And I would urge everyone to read the book that I'm going to talk about is 1984. Okay, where do I start about 1984? Anyone who has seen quizzing knows, will figure that I'm obsessed with 1984. In particular, and George Orwell in general. Every quizzing edition has had at least one 1984 question. I very later in life realized that George Orwell and I were born in the same state, which still freaks me out sometimes. Oh my God, how did it happen? But anyway, let me talk about 1984. I'll try and be I'll try and summarize 1984 for our audience. If you haven't read, even if you've read, I think you will relate to what I'm saying. If you've not read, I would 100% recommend. Let me start. I think, in my very humble opinion, 1984 is the most relevant, timeless novel that has come out in the last 100 years. If I have to pick my one book from 20th century, it might be 1984. And I'll tell you why. I'll talk about my opinion first and then what people say. I am obsessed with newspaper, as all my friends know. I read newspaper every day. Like there is always a Hindustan Times at an arm's length. There has never been a copy of any newspaper ever that I have read and not thought of 1984. You know, there has never been a single day since I've read 1984 that I have not thought about that book in some context in my life. Even if there is a day where I have not read a newspaper, 100% for a second at least, every day of my life, I would have thought of 1984. That just proves the insane legacy of that book. So let me just start with the introduction. 1984 is a book by George Orwell. It came out, I think, in the late 40s, 1949, I remember. So he must have been written in
Yeah.
47, 48. Okay. So this book is now 70, it is approaching 75th anniversary, right? So more than 7 decades of a book. And the book is becoming more relevant with time. That is insane. One of the things that you always think when it comes to art, like cinema or books, and you talk about longevity and the how much will it endure, how will it stand the test of time. I can't think of a work that has become more relevant with time. Everything that Orwell wrote in 40s is becoming like every day what he was writing then is becoming more and more relevant. Let me start with a few pointers of what makes this book so great. The basic is very simple. The book is dystopian. That's another word that everyone keeps talking about. The book is set in future and hence 1984. The book is about a fascist regime which is at play. Our protagonist is a guy called Winston Smith. Winston Smith basically works for the government, but his own ideologies are not in line with what the government says. Like, for example, blind faith in your leader, whatever the leader says,
Hello.
the truth. Sorry, sorry. Have I frozen? Have you frozen? So we'll start again because I don't know which one of us froze. So I'll just start again. Can you see me, Shivan? Can you hear me now? I can see you.
Hello. Okay, cool. I don't know if it was your internet or my internet,
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm just saying. Okay,
someone had frozen for a bit.
one of us is frozen. So I'll just take thoda piche.
Okay, anyway, you continue.
Okay. So I was saying 1984 is about a character called Winston Smith who works for the government. He works in a totalitarian regime, which is basically a fascist regime, where his job is to rewrite history, so to speak. So his job is a revision of history basis the beliefs of the current government. Okay. So I'll not go into details, but essentially the whole book is it was Orwell got inspired from Stalin and the fascist governments of that time. But everything he wrote can be seen throughout history, can be seen today all over the world. Orwell wrote it way before Twitter was a thing. He wrote it way before 24/7 media news channels were a thing. But all those things are there in that book. Everything he said. So about totalitarian regime, about a government that wants to rewrite history, about blind faith in a leader, about how the leader, Big Brother in this case in the book, Big Brother is everywhere. It's part of everything you do. His shadow looms over you throughout your day-to-day life. Some of the words we use in our current English language, itna like as if like they've been there forever, but or a lot of them came from 1984. Things like Big Brother is watching you, Newspeak, Double Speak. There's so many. One of my personal favorite is alternative facts. It's one of my favorite two-word term from 1984 because I am as a person I am obsessed with facts, and that's one thing that quizzing is also about. I am a firm believer in facts because I really think like everyone can have an opinion, but not everyone has facts. Okay, like I think there is some quote that okay, I'll not quote it, but essentially everyone has opinion, whoever you meet. But facts are something that I find like really sacrosanct. Like any issue I think of in life, just any issue around you, farm laws. Okay, anyone who comes to me with like farm laws, yeah, I'm like, don't give me opinion. Tell me what the farm laws. Let's start from there. Or CAA. So don't tell me what you think about CAA. Tell me what is CAA. What is the bill? What is NRC? Tell me. Let's start with the facts. Opinions will come to that. So to have alternative fact where a certain regime can alter facts, it's beautiful. So all these themes in the book are relevant even today after 70 years. And like I said, they've become more and more relevant with time. Fake news. So you think of propaganda, you think of 1984. You think of fake news, you think of 1984. You think of fascist regime, you think of totalitarianism. Yeah, Orwellian is a word. Like, how much more can I say? So that's the first part of the enduring legacy of the book. My second part is the book itself, and I always say this about anything, again, any work of art, is, for example, if you talk about movies, okay, Before you say this movie has so much of great message, this movie has great metaphor, this movie has great frame. My question always is the movie entertaining? Did you enjoy the movie? Let's start from there. And then we'll talk about all this like over the metaphor, over the scene blocking, over the angle, all that. The book is really gripping. And despite like, oh, this has such great themes, but the book itself, as a book, is so gripping. It's so well written. So that I really, really love about 1984. My third point is the book has a wonderful love story, which sometimes you don't uh, think of. That's not the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of 1984. That there is a extremely special love story in the book, which is between our protagonist Winston and Julia, and they represent again different kinds of things. Love itself is a theme throughout the book. Love itself in a totalitarian regime, a sort of a crime, right? And the book talks about, not directly, but one of the symbols of the book is the fact that some of the basic emotions of humans, like love, passion, doubt, are suppressed. And some other basic emotions are encouraged in such regime, which is fear, So, and that to have a romance between the two of them is beautiful. So that is one great theme I like about 1984. And my last thing is just relativity with relatable nature of their hero. Like not just me, I think a lot of people love heroes who are not really like hero, like in the traditional sense of the word. They are not superheroes. Like our character Winston here is not one of those revolutionary who goes out and destroys fascism all over the world. He's like one of us. He has a normal job. He gets up in the morning, works, but he has his doubts. He has his own own dilemma, own thing he's going through. So that I really, really like. But yeah, in summary, I think 1984 is probably, people talk about big three of dystopian novels, which is the Brave New World, 1984, and Handmaid's Tale, in some sense of 20th century. But I think 1984 is cut above the rest. I can't imagine a book that has gotten more and more and more relevant with time. Like I can't believe Orwell sat and wrote these things. Of you see a CCTV camera, you think of Orwell. You see some fake WhatsApp forward, you think of 1984. You see any news which has one particular leader's face all over everywhere, you think of 1984. There are reality shows called Big Brother, which is clearly inspired. Big Boss, you see Big Boss trailer, I think of 1984. It is, I can't believe how great the book is. Yes.
Yeah, I think adding to that, it's also interesting that we obviously you spoke so much about the relevance of it and how it's becoming more relevant. It's interesting because over the last year only, I feel like so many adaptations of Orwell has come into play. I don't know if it's just in the last year or whether it was always there, but I've heard of at least two in the last few months. One is Julia, which you also, I think, of, and it's we've discussed it, which is like the story from Julia's point of view, as you mentioned. And then I recently found there's this book come out, which is a sort of a sequel kind of thing of Animal Farm, and what would have happened to Animal Farm, like to that farm 30 years later, 40 years later, or whatever. So it's incredible because I think people only interact or engage with a novel of that kind so many years later if they feel like there is something that's still relevant and they still have something new to add, something to say about that story. Like people still adapt Shakespeare because those emotions and those themes are so relevant that they make sense even today. So the fact that Orwell is getting adapted like that is also a comment on how relevant it still is.
In 2017 or 18, like one of these recent years, the 1984 was the most ordered book on Amazon in the US, I think.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's crazy.
After 70 years of your release, this book is and oh my god, it's
yeah.
Cool. I'll just go to the chat, Shimoy. I've only seen that. Okay. Nicole says, saw V for Vendetta and from there discovered the book 1984. Oh, great. So did you read it? Nicole, if not, please read it. So Bashmit says, I remember there was one question in quizzing about Orwell birthplace in Bihar. Yes. there was a question, there's always a 1984 question. And if not 1984 now, we recently had a Julia question also. I don't know if it's out or whether it is
I
in.
don't think it's out. I don't think
It
it's
must be
out.
on Mega tournament or
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
quiz members that we did recently. But yeah, parallels in real life are uncanny, says Nikunj about 1984. 100%, that's what we also discussed
yeah.
about the relevance of 1984.
Yeah. But I just want to add one thing. I don't know how true this is, but
Hmm.
recently Rohan said that he found some meme or some reel which said that 1984 is some crazy number, like 60-70% of people who say they have read 1984 have actually not read that book.
Yeah.
So maybe it's connecting a lot with you, but not with everybody.
Yeah. I think that's how I started the intro to 1984. Is that it's true for most classics, so to speak.
Yeah.
That a lot of people have, and that's why when I make any list of like must do, must read,
Mhm.
I try and start with these because I somehow feel like a lot of us have not read the.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do
Also,
I?
I think with dystopian novels, what happens is it is really like difficult in the sense that it is depressing. Especially now because you're like, shit, this is happening.
Yeah,
Like maybe when you read it thinking that okay, this will be sometime in the future that it's exciting
yeah,
to read, but then when it's happening all around you and you still have to read it
yeah,
and know that this was predicted like some whatever 70 years ago,
yeah,
it's quite difficult.
yeah.
Maybe for people, I don't know.
Cool. So in today's episode, Srimay has talked about Feluda. Go and check out Feluda in case you haven't. Feluda is a fun read. Whatever little I have read, I would. Srimay obviously highly recommends it, and I'm recommending 1984. Please go and check 1984 out. Then if you like it, you can read Animal Farm. You can read other Orwell also, but let's
Yeah.
just.
Or the other way around, you can read Animal Farm first
Yeah,
because
Animal
I
Farm
like
first.
Animal Farm more.
Love Animal Farm. Okay. Yeah, and much easier read also.
Yeah, it's much easier. Much easier.
Okay, cool. As always, we'll end the episode with what are you reading currently, Srimay?
Yes.
And I'll also think of which one.
Okay. What am I reading currently? I'm reading this book called Fire on the Ganges
Hmm.
by an author called Radhika Iyengar, I think. It's kind of, I mean, it is non-fiction-ish. It's about her work and her sort of exploring this community of people in Benares who sort of light the pyres when
Hmm.
people die. So it's about that. And so then talking about that community, caste issues that come into play,
Hmm.
and the life that they lead. It's so far I've read about half the book,
Hmm.
and I really like how it's written. I don't know. I'm not sure completely because I haven't read the whole thing, but it
Hmm.
is a very very interesting exploration. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. What are
Wow.
you reading?
Wow. No, but you reminded me of Banaras, and I don't know how many of our audience members have gone there, but I would highly recommend at least one visit to Banaras in life, not for religious reason, but in general there are many other reasons to go there, including religious reasons. And
Mm.
once this, okay, if you you know, in Hinduism, it is considered that if you die in Banaras, आप सीधा स्वर्ग जाते हैं. And a lot of people actually go plan their death around Banaras, which is extremely morbid. This thing, but I mean, specific to what you said, uh, I think one of those experiences which will probably remain with you all your life is if you go to the ghats of Banaras and see dead bodies being burned there, and at Manikarnika Ghat, which is the main ghat for for cremation and everything. And if you take the boat tour in Ganga in the morning or whenever, it takes you to all the ghats, right? It takes you to the Shashwamedh Ghat and everything. And when the boat goes there and you see that sight, it cannot be described in words because it brings you so close to mortality. Your thoughts suddenly you stand in the again, like I said, you can't put it in words. That feeling is the thought that which you read so often. Like Gita, you've read so many times. You know, Zindagi, matlab जीवन तो बस ऐसा. Like in different words, we've read it all our life. That life is temporary and it's just the sub Ishwar, Nashwar, everything. But I think that's the closest you will ever get to the thought that, oh my God, this is my ultimate destination. This is
Yeah.
no matter what I do in life, this is where I'm ending. Like, you know,
Yeah.
metaphorically there, not like literally there, but this is your future. That is just I will never forget that sight of Manikarnika. Man, and there is Raja Harishchandra Ghat. Raja Harishchandra actually, the story is that he went there and worked with the community that we talked about, and as a part of that community. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. The book also sort of explores what it's like when your source of livelihood is this, when people are, when there's death and people are, when you work so closely with death, which
Yeah.
is also like an interesting, I mean, really interesting exploration, because a lot of people who work there are also very young, like they're
Yeah.
kids or teenage kids who just have to work because they need the money. So for them to come, in such close contact with death, and what that, how that affects them and things like that. So yeah, it is a very, very good exploration. Can I also say something light now, just
Yes, please,
to
because my book is
balance
also very
this?
light, so very nicely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I also read this book called The Lonely Hearts Book Club, which was great. Every week I try to read like one rom-com kind of thing, just to balance everything else that I'm reading. This week I read two, but this Lonely Hearts Book Club was nice. It's about a group of lonely people who managed to find a book club and then read books. So my
Oh,
favorite genre.
amazing, amazing. Yes. I want to talk about the book that I'm reading now is a biography of Lakshmikant Pyarelal. So I'll quickly talk about it for 2 minutes before we end this episode. I'm obsessed with Bollywood. I'm obsessed with Bollywood music, and growing up, obviously I grew up in the Rahman generation, and Rahman, Jati Lalit, etc. And then Shankar Sando, etc. etc. And old music directors, I always thought R.D. Burman is the cool person that I should
Cool
listen.
dude.
Cool dude. But somebody told me once ki, forget R.D. Burman, Lakshmikant Pyarelal is the greatest music director ever. I was like, yeah, whatever. घर में कुछ कैसेट थी लक्ष्मीकांत प्यारेलाल का, melodious, but I didn't really, as a teenager, could understand their significance in Indian cinema. But over the years, and this conversation would have happened around 20 years ago, in the last 20 years, I've understood the. So, if you ask me the greatest music directors of all time in India, the Hindi movies, that will make me probably bypass Rahman. I would pick Lakshmikant Pyarelal as the greatest music director of all time. Now, over the years, I've become obsessed with LP's music, from Dosti to Karma to, I don't know, there's Bobby, there's Hero, there's just too many. And so this book is a lot of fun. So what I do is I play Lakshmikant Pyarel's music, and then I start reading the book. That's my ritual almost every day for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That also means I'm taking a lot of time to read, because then every time it mentions the song, I close the book, I start humming it. I remember the whole track of a movie called Milan, which is Sunil Dutt's movie. Like I was reading and then I was like, oh, Milan. And I'm like, Ram kare aisa ho jaye meri so every song there's a continue. It's taking forever to finish for this reason. But I'm really enjoying, because I was telling you in person, but I'm saying this to the audience now, that it's that sometimes biographies become too self-indulgent from the author's perspective, where the fandom takes over the writing. So they just keep talking about that person in uh, too much detailing. I think that I'm okay with if it's an autobiography, because I understand somebody's writing about their life. But for a biography, I want it to be like, yeah, bolna, next movie,
Quick.
next movie. So this book, I think you reviewed it also.
I'm not sure. I hope that's the correct. I reviewed something about
Yeah, yeah.
Lakshmi Pyarelal.
Yeah, but it's a fast read. It goes from like 50s, 60s, 70s, thak, 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 already 90s. I've already reached like Khalnayak, and also it's almost end of his
Yes.
Divana Mastana. And yeah, those were some of his last picks. So yeah, enjoying LP's biography.
Yeah. But I completely get this listening to this, like the song, because I remember, again, I don't know if it was this biography or another LP biography that I was reviewing, but they had this whole segment about how Rahman was really inspired by Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai, and how he really loved the music of that song, so much so that when he did Slumdog, that Ringa Ringa song was sort of a tribute, and he got the same singers and everything. And I remember for like hours after that, I just heard those two songs on loop.
Yeah, yeah, I matlab, fully relate. The reason I was picking my phone is, I just want to say my recently searched first thing is Slumdog Millionaire. Last album I heard today when I landed from the flight, I was listening to. Awesome and escape as always. Okay, cool. Done. So that brings us to the end of this episode. I'll have a quick look at people's comments, our friends, our members. Have read it once, almost 10 years ago, haven't come around to read it again, says Nikunj about 1984. Okay. Would love a discussion around LOTR or Hercule Poirot in future streams. Okay, LOTR actually today I was confused between 1984 and
And
LOTR.
Agatha Christie though. So you can watch episode 1.
Yes. Yes. So you guys can watch the very first episode where we
No,
talk.
not episode 1, episode 2. Episode 2 you can watch.
Yes. Second episode, we have talked, Shima has talked about Agatha Christie. And LOTR, maybe the next episode I'll take it. I want you to. Cool. Okay, Shima, anything?
Actually, sorry, it's episode 3.
It doesn't matter, just go through
Just watch all of them.
watch all episodes, fun 40-45 minutes episode. Watch while you're driving, doing your chores, anything. No need to watch us. You can just listen to the conversation.
Yeah.
Shima, anything you want to add before we end?
No, if we have a show coming up in Bombay, the quiz show on 17th March.
17th March, we have 3 shows in Mumbai, in Khar. If you want to be part of the quiz show, please come over and we'll quiz together in person.
Yeah.
All
Follow
right.
us on Instagram for more updates.
Follow us on Instagram at Quiz. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, ending 3, 2, 1.